no more. They took a nap, which was great. I trust CS Pacat with my whole ass life.
If that's not the gayest thing you've ever heard, I don't know where this book is going, and that's amazing. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, and this is the Astro Library. I hope you've all been doing well. I'm sort of enjoying this kind of like cooler weather, though all the kind of like on and off lighting has been super annoying for filming. So if you see the lighting change throughout this video, I apologize. But I have for you today a reading vlog, which I feel like it's been a while since I've last done like a true to form reading vlog. Originally, I'd only planned this vlog to be one book, but I decided I was gonna do two books for you guys. And the two books I'm going to read for this vlog are Dark Rise and Dark Heir by C.S. Pacat. I've talked about Dark Rise on this channel before and how much I loved it, just as I love C.S. Pacat as an author. But earlier this week, Dark Heir finally came out. And so I decided to prepare for this release. I was going to reread the first book so I could just dive straight into the second book without having to kind of catch myself up or remember anything. It was just right one after the other. And as I'm sure you saw from the clips that I kind of previewed, it was a wild time for kind of both of these books. So in this vlog, we're going to be taking a look at both of them together and just kind of my thoughts as I was rereading Dark Rise and just my absolute honest to God reactions as I read Dark Heir. And like I said, it goes wild. But before we can get to either of these, we have to have a word from our sponsor today, and that is Luisa. I'm sure if you're on BookTube, you've heard of them before because they sponsor a lot of us creators, so they're a huge friend to the community. But what I love about Luisa is that they have some of the cutest pieces. But what I really love about Luisa is that they are super affordable. As I've talked about many times on the channel, I'm a grad student, which means I'm broke as hell all the time. They don't pay us well, as one would expect. I'm essentially a college student. So getting really cute jewelry pieces that are affordable with prices starting as low as $39 is kind of crazy. So I come from a family who has really sensitive skin and is super allergic to a lot of metals. So Luisa is not only a really great company that has a lot of good quality pieces for the low prices that they offer, but they are hypoallergenic and tarnish resistant. That I'm always in love with. I'm always browsing their website looking for what other pieces I can buy. Like this gorgeous mood ring that I have, which you can see is kind of a purpley color right now. Or those gorgeous moon and star earrings that kind of dangle and are a little shiny. And even this cute sunburst necklace with these really cute beading along the chain itself. So as you saw, I have this beautiful necklace and these earrings and this mood ring, but I did get one other piece that I love for my January birthday times. And that is this gorgeous red heart necklace and this pretty gold chain. Oh, it's so beautiful. I almost wore it with this outfit, but this sunburst one was just calling my name. All of their pieces are super pretty, super affordable, and I am so happy to be working with them for this video. If you want to get some really cute pieces, this is the perfect time. If you're watching this video when it is released on November 21st, do I have great news for you, because they are having their biggest sale of the year where you're going to get discounts up to 35% off from November 21st, so the day this video is released, all the way to the 25th. So you have some time to go and shop and maybe pick up some jewelry pieces for you or for other ones for the upcoming holiday season. I know these are going to be great gifts, and I already know what one piece I'm going to get for my niece. So I'm just saying, I'm also shopping there. So you can rest assured that I fully believe in Luisa's products, and I have been wearing these. As you may have spotted in a few of my other videos, you can spot these earrings that I've just been leaving on, because if you know me, I don't want to take any of my jewelry off, and if I could leave it in, I will. And I can say, you can leave these babies in, shower, do whatever you want, and they're gonna look just as nice and new. But I have a discount for you all down in the description box, so please check it out. Get yourself some cute pieces and, you know, elevate your own style. So thank you once again, Luisa, for sponsoring this video. But let's go ahead and jump straight into the vlog and see what my thoughts are on for Dark Rise and Dark Heir. Hello. So it is Tuesday about 2 o'clock, a little after 2 o'clock. So I'm going to be starting Dark Rise. So next week, I believe next Monday or Tuesday, the sequel Dark Heir comes out, and I'm so excited. But since it's been a hot minute since I've read Dark Rise, I figured I'd give this book a reread, and why not dedicate a whole vlog to it? So I'm going to be reading this over again for the second time, and I'm really excited because I love C.S. Pacat's writing so much. And I remember really liking this book, so I'm interested in rereading it to see what I catch more of that I missed in my first reading, because this is quite a complex world, and I just want to give myself a refresh so when the second book comes out, all caught up, and that I'm not going to miss any details I otherwise would have if I didn't reread this one. I'm going to read you the synopsis from the inside flap, just because if I try to give you a synopsis of it, I feel like I'm going to misrepresent the book because it's been so long since I've read it. Let's relearn what this book is about together. So the dark is coming is the big tagline. So the ancient world of magic is no more. Its heroes are dead, its halls are in ruins, and its great battles between light and dark are forgotten. Only the stewards remember, and they keep their centuries-long vigil, sworn to protect humanity if the Dark King ever returns. 16-year-old dock boy Will is on the run, pursued by the men who killed his mother, when an old servant tells him of his destiny to fight beside the steward. Will is ushered into a world of magic where he must train to play a vital role in the oncoming war against the dark. As London is threatened by the Dark King's return, the reborn heroes and villains of a long-forgotten war begin to draw battle lines. But as the young descendants of light and dark step into their destined roles, old allegiances, old enmities, and old flames are awakened. Will must stand with the last of the heroes of the light to prevent the dark fate that destroyed their world from returning to destroy his own. This is a Chosen One story, but it's a twist on the Chosen One take. No, you'll see. This is going to be a spoiler-filled vlog just because I don't want to hold back any thoughts. So I'll be sure to put the words spoiler on screen like you see here whenever I'm talking about something that is going to like give a major fact away. But yeah, I'm super excited to get back into this and to just dive into this world for the sequel. I'm going to start reading this. I'm going to get myself a drink and just make myself a little cozier. I'm still in my work clothes, so I think I might change out of those, and then I will see you in a time lapse. Hello, it is Thursday, November 9th at, let's see, about 3:40 in the afternoon, so it's a bit later in the day, and you would have already seen a clip. I have been reading a bit today. I ended at page 60. I'm gonna continue reading today, but I got almost zero reading done on Tuesday when I initially started this vlog, just because I had like a raging headache from my sinuses being blocked up. So I got like 20 pages in and I was like, no more. And I took a nap, which was great. And then Wednesday was really busy. My goal, I think, is to hit 150 to 200 pages. So I'm gonna try to get quite a bit more reading done, at least 100 more pages done, because I just want to get more into the thick of this book, because this is the start of her newest series. It means there's a lot of world building in this, which makes it have a slower pace. Where I ended up, we've just kind of really met the two factions in this world, the good and the evil side. So we have Simon and his crew, and then the stewards, with Justice kind of being like the main leading force we've met so far. And we're just getting introduced to all our kind of like characters and perspectives. So we met Violet, who is the sister to one of Simon's lions, or like this guard that has like super strength. And she's kind of gotten roped into Will's whole thing and is now with the stewards, who are kind of like these knights in shining armor who fought against the darkness since the beginning of time. And we're just kind of learning from the steward's point of view what's going on. So Will's trying to get all these answers of who killed his mom and like why are they after him. So it's very slow in that we're still learning a lot about the world and about our characters and about this conflict that's going on. And it doesn't help that the text is like super tiny on the page. So I think I'm gonna get my glasses to kind of read this just to make it a little easier on my eyes. But I've decided decided that I'm actually going to turn this vlog into a 2-week vlog. So I'm going to read both the Dark Rise and the Dark Heir in this vlog. So we're going to get both books. I don't think I'll be able to finish and edit this video before Monday or Tuesday when the second book comes out. So I'm just going to combine the two and it's going to be fun. I'm enjoying the book. I'm dipping my toes back into this world, which has been fun. And even though it's a little slow, I know it's going to pick up and I know I'm going to get really invested. I'm already kind of paying closer attention to the details that have happened in these first opening scenes that I kind of glossed over in my first reading. So that's been kind of fun, but not much has happened. So I don't have a lot to comment for this clip here, but the plan is to again read maybe 100 more pages tonight, maybe 150, depending on where I'm at in the book and kind of the pacing of the book by that 100-page mark. And then I do have to do some grading for student essays because I did tell my students I'd get them by like Monday. No, I haven't started. Yes, there's 21 of them. Leave me alone. It'll be fine. Other than that, what else do I have planned? I need to put up this picture ledge I bought in a coat rack that's gonna go on. You can kind of see it is this wall right here. It's at the end of my hallway. So I'm going to put a picture ledge there and a coat kind of like hook rail. So that's a plan. I think I'm gonna do that tomorrow just because I don't know if I want to do it tonight. I might end up doing it tonight because tomorrow I have to go to World Market and I need to go to Hobby Lobby to pick up some Christmas decor just because you can kind of see that there's already starting of Christmas decoration going on. But here, and I'll move you around. You can see that corner doesn't really have any decoration. And then this corner is pretty bare. And I was actually thinking of taking off this red ribbon and moving that to one of the other corners and then getting a different red garland and putting it every other shelf so it kind of like mimics the candy cane I have off to the side. So yeah, that's the plan for tomorrow. I also have a couple of meetings going on and I think I have to drive my parents to the airport. I need to clean the house. There's a lot of things going on Friday. So I want to get 100 pages done today and then hopefully maybe like another 50 or so pages tomorrow and then 100 pages on Saturday and 100 pages on Sunday. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. Something tells me it's not gonna be great because there's a lot of moving parts. We're going to get through this book before the sequel comes out, or at least a day after the sequel comes out, and we're gonna continue on with it. But until then, I will see you in the next update. I think I did good. It looks so nice. Now I just gotta decorate it. It is 8:16 in the evening, still on Thursday, but I am happy to report that I did make it to page 162. So I have read my 150 pages for today. So that is a win in my books. Almost immediately after I had like last updated you guys, we hit a really interesting part where we're introduced to who I think is going to be one of the more fun and interesting characters of this kind of story, and that is James St. Clair, who Will can't seem to keep his eyes off of, and more than that, can't like help himself but like want to like poke at. There's some connection between them that makes their interactions just like that much like impactful and that kind of like punch in the story, and it's always so much fun to read when they interact or where they almost interact. And I definitely think I actually found a note in here. Let me see if I can find it again. So I found this note when as I was rereading, and this is from when I first read the book, and I immediately clocked that James was a potential love interest for this book, and I'm excited for that because they have this like electric tension between them. And as we read more and more in this book, we find out that the relationship between them is probably a bit more darker than usual. And I trust C.S. Pacat with my whole ass life when it comes to her romances because they're just so good, and her enemies to lovers are just unbelievable. It's just so captivating. So I'm very excited to see how the romance between Will and James might develop, particularly in the next book, which I believe James is playing a bigger role in it. Like he's in the whole synopsis punchline for it. So I'm excited to see more of him because I do think this is going to be a trilogy
trilogy. So just to be one more book in, it's gonna be great. As for where I stopped though, I am kind of hitting like the next lull in the book because this book is a lot of world building and kind of lore building, which is very much needed for the end of this book. The end of this book is amazing and super gripping, but to get that impact and to get all the emotional payoff, we have to go through this world building, and it does slow down the story. When I first read this book, I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and that's only because of how slow this beginning is. It takes a while to really get through it. Rereading it a second time doesn't really make me, I wouldn't say I'm loving it more. It's still a pretty slow start, but I will say that I am appreciating it more because I'm seeing all the pieces click in a lot sooner. I know I said this is a spoiler vlog, and it is, but I'm going to kind of bring you along my journey. So I'm not going to spoil anything that's happening towards the end of this, but there's a moment in here where Will is kind of coming to some realizations about his past. I don't think I caught it quite the first time I was reading it, but definitely it clued me in that Will is aware of the twist of this book a lot sooner than we, the reader, are, even though I guessed the twist about halfway through this book and I was still really interested in it. So it's a twist you can see coming, but doesn't diminish the impact of it when it is revealed. Seeing Will having figured it out, so like, I'm not that far into the book at all, and for Will to have kind of clued himself in is kind of really fun because it shows the reader that the clues were always there. I'm going to set this down for the night though because I'm getting a bit of a headache and I just don't want to stare at this tiny text anymore, and because I feel like I'm stopping at a good place, because where I ended is that he is now at kind of like the steward's headquarters. Him and Violet are kind of like getting into the swing of things. They're in their training arc, so Violet's being trained as a fighter and then Will's being trained in magic, and we're gonna go through a training arc with them. So it's a good time to stop while I'm ahead and my head's not like pounding and getting through something I don't like find super interesting. I think if I read another 100 pages, I'll be firmly in the over halfway mark because this is only like a 400 and something page book. I think 450 maybe. So another 100 pages will put me pretty firmly in the over halfway point, which I believe is when this book really starts picking up. But that's it for me tonight. I'm gonna play some video games and then I will see you in my next update. Hello. It is Tuesday, November 14th. So I think I last updated you on Friday, and that was probably the last time I read. If I'm being completely honest. Or maybe Thursday's the last time I updated you. Maybe I'm really bad and I didn't update you since Thursday. Regardless, this weekend was busy and I didn't get a chance to like sit down and record anything. Maybe pop some pictures up on screen of like what I was doing. But I was in LA all day. And then Sunday I had D&D, and then I had like so much homework going on, and I had essays to grade, and it's been a lot. It's been a really busy past like 3 or 4 days. And so I didn't get a lot of chance to like sit down and record, but I did get further in Dark Rise. So I'm almost done. I have maybe 100 or so pages left. And oh my God, I forgot how much I love the ending of this book and how like intense it really gets after all the world building. So let me see. Where did I leave you off on? Will was entering his training arc and trying to learn magic. Well, that didn't go well. As Will and Violet are kind of like doing their own thing with the stewards, they're learning that something's not quite right. There's some secret being hidden with these stewards. They're not telling Will or Violet the whole story, but also they're hiding something from within their own order because the two leaders, the elder and the high janissary, the two people of power are kind of like whispering to each other, and they're like, that's weird. And there's also the whole tension that Violet is a lion, or I don't know if you would call it a species, but a set of people who have been known to follow the Dark Lord, the Dark King, not the Dark Lord. That's Harry Potter. I'm a bit scatterbrained today, so I apologize for the chaoticness of this update. So we learned that Will is having a really hard time trying to access his magic. It's just not working, and every like method that the elder's trying to teach him is just not applying to him, and that the only time we see Will being able to access magic is in moment of high emotion, but that's unreliable. So he is kind of just trying to figure out what the hell is his role going to be. If he's supposed to defeat the Dark King when he rises, how is he going to do that without control of his power? On the flip
side, Violet is kind of coming to the realization that she doesn't have to fight for the Dark King, even though that's what her brother and that's what her family has been into. She's like, I could be the lion that doesn't do that, but no one's going to trust me because I am a lion. And Justice, the steward who had rescued Violet and Will and brought them into this place in the first place, takes Violet under his wing and says, okay, I'll train you, not knowing that she's a lion. Of course, that all kind of gets revealed when Will and Violet decide to do some spying. Will and Violet decide that they want to go and spy on Violet's family as they're trying to get information about what Simon is doing and what he's looking for, because everyone's like super secretive and like worried that it's something. And the two leaders of the stewards are kind of whispering, and Will and Violet go out one night and they kind of overhear that conversation, and they learn that whatever Simon's planning, they're really worried that it's going to come and reach this keep. So Will and Violet decided to figure out what's going on and bring that information back to the stewards so that they will accept Will and Violet as kind of trusted members. They find out that whatever Simon's after, he's sending James, who is the betrayer and just kind of like Simon's most powerful pawn. He's sending him out alone to recover this item. And so Will and Violet say, okay, this is the perfect time to catch James. And so they're rushing back to the stewards. By the time they get there, they don't want to listen to him because I don't know how they found out, but they found out that Violet has a connection to her brother, Tom, who is the lion who's been killing a whole bunch of the stewards in a recent attack. And so because of that, they get thrown into a cell, and at first they're like, oh no, what we're gonna do? But then there's this other like steward in training that his brother Marcus had disappeared at the beginning of the book. And so he unlocks them. They all decide, okay, we're gonna capture James, and they go out to do it. And surprisingly they succeed, even though, James is supposed to be like this big bad magician dude that everyone should be worried about. But here's like 3 kids coming to rock his fucking world. Then we get to my favorite part. So we have James. They capture James. We have these like high tension romantic moments with Will and him. Also, when we get back to the stewards and kind of present their prize, the stewards torture James. Essentially, they have a unicorn horn that they use to like stab you, and it makes you tell the truth as long as it's like stabbed into your body. And of course, Will's the one who stabs James. He makes this comment like, if anyone's gonna do it, he feels like it should be him. Like he wants it to be him if this is going to happen. And so he's the one who's like stabbing James, and James is trying to like egg him on and egg the others. And we find out James is actually the son of one of the leaders, but because he was reborn as the betrayer or like the Dark King's pet, we don't quite know what the relationship is between them. He was essentially cast out and like called evil, and they completely abandoned. But with the, unicorn horn of truth stabbed into his chest, that Will's like romantically gripping and like digging deeper. I swear. But if James and Will don't get together in that book, if there's no romantic tension in the dark air, I'm going to scream, because their interactions in this book are so good and just like so tense and like filled with like romantic tension. Will's constantly mentioning how beautiful James is, how captivating he is, and how he can't take his eyes off him. But more than that, he's always talking about how he's drawn to James and wants James' attention. Come on. That's totally like sexual romantic tension going on, and I need more of it.
5 hours later.
He admits that Simon is looking for an artifact, and that Marcus, the steward he has, is close to turning. And then we get this really big reveal that the source of all the steward's strengths is this like chalice or cup that was the same cup that was used to corrupt the original like 4 kings, whatever, in the past. And that's how the Dark King created these shadow monsters that have been hunting Will and Violet and are just like these unstoppable monsters. And so we learn that the stewards are also in danger of becoming those shadow monsters. And in fact, that the reason why they have a whole partner system is because when one person starts showing signs that they're going to turn into a shadow monster, the partner must and save them from themselves. And so the whole big reveal is that when Marcus turns into a shadow monster, he will still be able to access the keep, which is only accessible to people with steward blood. And so we find out that what the 2 leaders of the stewards were kind of hiding was the fact that Marcus is going to turn to a monster rollercoaster, and when he comes, there's nothing to stop him. So now we have a ticking time clock of if we don't figure out what Simon's trying to do and how to stop and get Marcus back, we're gonna have a problem at our front door. There's so much going on in this book because I forgot. During the excursion where Will and Violet were going to do some spying of their own, Will actually ran into Simon's fiance, who they seem to have this intense connection that they don't know what's drawing them to each other. And Will kind of helps her out as she's outside without a chaperone, and if she's caught, it'll be a scandal, so he escorts her back home. Whatever. That comes up again because when they find out that Marcus is being held at Simon's house where the fiance is staying. And so Will thinks, okay, maybe I can go talk to her and get us a way in so we don't have to fight our way in and then lose hundreds of people to that ensuing battle. And so Will, Violet, and Stewart in training, whose name I can't pronounce. Cyprian. I've been calling him Cyrus in my head. Those three head out in hopes of finding out another way into this building. It fails, but when they come back, they realize that the entire Stewart keep has been wiped out and everyone in it is dead, besides maybe 2 or 3 people. And they were too late that Marcus indeed had turned into a shadow monster and it killed everyone except the elder, who gives these parting words to Cyprian that he's the last of the Stewards and that he must lead the good fight and that Will can do it. Typical chosen one stuff. And so now we're left with Will, Violet, and Cyprian kind of figuring out what the fuck do we do now? Well, there's 3 people against Simon's entire army and James is now gone, so he's back on the board. And what are we going to do? Well, they decide that they're gonna go figure out what Simon was after and get the artifact first. So they track down what he was hunting and they figure out it's with this old man who lives kind of in the middle of nowhere at a farm. And they also learn that James is after this item as well. So they race to go get it and to potentially recapture James. And when they get to the house, they just beat James by a few minutes and they have to hide and kind of observe what's going on. And we see James being taunted by the old man. You just want this artifact for yourself. You don't care about that Simon wants it. It's calling for you. And you call for it. You are it's a magnetic attraction. Eventually, James finds out that Will and them are there, and we start this kind of kerfuffle of who's gonna get this artifact. And we find out the artifact itself is actually a collar that was specifically designed for James's neck. And Will, of course, cannot keep his eyes off of it, and neither can James. When it's revealed, James's eyes and body turns towards it. So much so it allows Will and Violet to kind of get the upper hand and knock him unconscious and slap some manacles on him. And that's kind of where I stopped. So we have a lot going on. There's so much in this book that I feel I can't cover it all. This video is gonna be millions of hours long. Let's go ahead and just jump straight in. I'm going to sit here and read hopefully the last 100 or so pages of this and just enjoy. But I will catch you in the next update, probably when I finish this. After a bit of an outfit change, but I have finished Dark Rise, and oh my god, I forgot how much I love the ending. So I mentioned this at some point as I was reading, but this book is really slow, and that could turn off a lot of people. And I know it turned me off a little during my first read of this, because it's just a really slow book as we're getting introduced to all these characters, we're getting introduced to this lore and this world, and it takes time for things to build, but all that building is really necessary to get to the end, which recontextualizes the whole book, particularly with Will. So the big twist in this, and the major spoiler here, if you want to read this book and you don't want to get spoiled, skip ahead till the spoiler's off the screen because this is a big one. So Will reveals to us all that he is not the heir of the Lady and the Light side and the Stewards, but he is actually the Dark King that has been re-risen. That Simon's attempt to raise a Dark King about 17 or so years ago actually worked. It wasn't a failure, and he was born, and his mother was actually protecting him and hiding him away. What's so great about this ending and that reveal is because we get Will just retextualized for the whole novel, and that a lot of the time we're watching Will kind of being observant and suspicious of everyone and having all these really smart observations and answers to people's questions. But other than that, he kind of takes a step back. For being the main character of this book, he's very nondescript, and he is kind of, you could almost say, boring in a sense, because Violet outshines him, her story's more fleshed out. Versus Will, we're always kind of feeling like we have only half the story. Like throughout this entire book, he's talking about his mother's death and how that was something that like motivated him. And we would get glimpses of the words that she said to him, like run, and he making him promise something, but we never know what. And Will allows the people around him, as well as us, the reader, to fall into his schemes and to his lies. Because Will has been lying to us from the very beginning of this book. He has always known that he was never going to be the heir to the lady. He has been manipulating everyone, including us, the reader, into not thinking of him in that way, to buying into this kind of mentality that he's just kind of like stumbled upon all of these things. But it's cold and it's calculated. He's been after Simon for the very first moment of this book, and that every move he's made in this story has been calculated. And when he finally accepts that he is the Dark King, he uses that kind of recognition of power to kind of fully clue the reader in and to finally accept his fate as the Dark King. And we get revealed that the memory of his mother's death isn't quite what we were all assuming, but in fact that his mother, after being attacked, she tried to kill him. Promise and run that he had made to her, and that those kind of repeated were not in Will's favor. She made him promise that he wouldn't hurt her real daughters. She was telling other people around Will to run away from him. He is the monster she feared most. And Will has been trying to keep that promise and to not be that monster throughout this entire book, but we still see that like inkling of manipulation and like severe cold calculation and using of people. And it's so good because it just turns the whole first half of this book around. What you're thinking is really boring, it's just kind of a lot of world building, but then you have to look at it through the lens of Will being this master manipulator, and that Will's sections, which were kind of bland, are purposely bland because he is trying to trick us, the reader, as well as those around him. And so that is kind of where this book ends and where the second book is starting up. So I have it right here. So the next book is Dark Heir, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to jump into this right away. I'm going to be reading this today. Like, don't you worry. Okay, it's a little longer than Dark Rise. It is 479 pages. I believe that one was 451, so they're roughly the same length. And let's go ahead and just read the synopsis of this together. So the tagline is, "The dark is never truly gone. It only waits for the world to forget so that it may rise again. The forces of the light have survived the dark's first assault, but at a terrible cost. A new threat from the past is rising, and only a handful of heroes remain to fight. Pursued by dark forces, Will and his allies must leave the safety of the hall and travel to the heart of the ancient world, making new and dangerous alliances and revealing the shocking secrets of the past. But Will is carrying a dark secret of his own, his true identity. Drawn to the beautiful and deadly James St. Clair, Will is pulled even deeper into the web of the past and finds himself tempted by the darkness within. As the ancient world threatens to return, can Will and his friends fight their fate? Or will the truths they learn tear their world apart?" Gonna be so good. And I can't wait for James to be more of a present character in this book, because we have quite a few moments of him and Will, but I feel like this is really the book that we're going to see them kind of slowly become more and more entrenched. And I know it's going to be so angsty because we have that secret between them, and how James thinking he is free, but really he is still within the Dark King's clutches. But I hope it's a great romance still. I know, but I have hope. I have hope that if anyone can make this a really great romance, it is C.S. Pacat, because that woman, she is chef's kiss with her romances. So that is Dark Heir, the synopsis for it. That's it for me. I think I'm going to do something else for a little bit, and then I will probably start this tonight. I don't know if I'll update you again today, but I will for sure update you tomorrow. See you in the next update.
Hi, Editor Emily here. I just wanted to jump right in and say that the following section of this video is going to be only spoilers because of how new this book is released, and yeah, just everything I'm gonna be saying is gonna be pertaining to spoilers, and I'm not gonna necessarily put up the spoiler tag because I would have to have it for this entire section. So you've been warned. If you do not want to be spoiled of what happens in this book, please go ahead and jump straight to the next timestamp.
Hello, it is Wednesday. It is the day after my last update. It is about 6:45. So I'm done with school, I'm done with work, and I had a little bit of time to read. I did start Dark Rise last night. I did not get very far, nor have I had a lot of chance to like read today. You saw a little bit of a time lapse, but as you can kind of see, I'm not very far in at all. I am 76 pages in, so I haven't even cracked the 100-page mark. But I like so far of what I've read in this. So it picks up almost immediately after the events of the last book, in that we are following Will and them as they're trying to figure out what are we gonna do now, what's going on, and now James is here. But I think the most interesting that's happened so far is that, so I don't remember if I talked about this or not, but Catherine, Simon's fiance, dies at the end of the first book. And so this book actually opens up with Catherine reviving in a way, or more likely we have this character, Visander, I think his name is, who wakens in this world. And we learn from both the kind of dramatis persona, or the recap of characters and who they are, as well as the very first prologue, that Visander is someone from the old world, so the same world that James is from, that the Dark King is from, and he has been reborn into this world, and he specifically has been reborn into Catherine's body, and that's going to create issues. In fact, I think where I just left off, Simon's father, Sinclair, had sent people over with like Simon's brother, so I think it's Simon's uncle and his brother that have arrived to kind of like figure out what's going on with Catherine, quote unquote, slash Visander, and his uncle recognizes that Visander is from the old world, and they have essentially kidnapped him. Like, they had this like really weird ceremony where like Visander's married off to Simon's brother, and so that's a thing. Poor Catherine, her body can't even get some rest. But we kind of get a glimpse that Visander is reborn not from the Dark King, so he's not part of the Dark King's reign, but in fact he was the ladies' champion. So not only is the Dark King sending people back, but the lady also sent someone back, particularly her champion, or the person who was supposed to like wield this like blade against the Dark King. That blade, which appeared in the first novel, appeared in the first half of the book, that it was the same sword that was on the ship where Will was and Violet, and they first met. That blade was corrupted by the Dark King some point in the past. It was always rumored that it could be purified by the next champion. It was actually purified in that final climactic moment between Will and Catherine. Catherine ends up cleansing it with her death. We find that out because Will shows off the clean silver blade. So now we have a bit of a smoking gun to go on. We have a blade that can kill the Dark King, Will, who is our Dark King, and the champion who has been newly resurrected into this world, whose purpose is to slay the Dark King. We have a lot of like moments of tension. And of course, my favorite thing ever, Will and James are still getting closer and closer with each other. We've only had a few scenes with them, really. One scene was where James, like, everyone has gone to bed and James is hanging out in his father's office. His father, who's been dead slightly by his hand, not quite by his hand. He's kind of like in the office being broody and drinking. And Will and him have this kind of moment where Will's trying to say, you're not really glad everyone's dead. And they just have this like moment between each other where it's a moment of understanding between them. And we can see that James is as captivated by Will as he is drawn to him. And Will is equally as captivated by James and drawn to him. And we see them come together over and over again. And we're not the only ones who notice this. Violet and Hyperion are also noticing this kind of weird relationship between them. Violet in particular, who is a little wary of why Will is treating James in this way. So, like I said, I'm not very far in. I don't think I'm gonna do a ton more reading today. I think I want to get to page 100 and stop there and read more tomorrow, and for sure a lot on Friday, because I do want to have this book done by Saturday, and I have no plan. I zero plans this weekend. I'm not available to hang out. I'm peopled out. I just want to sit with my book and to edit this vlog for Monday, because that's coming out. So that's the plan. I'll try to finish up like the last 25 or so pages in bed. So I will catch you tomorrow with another update. Dolores, my pretty girl. I'm super sorry about the washer going on in the background, but I wanted to record this clip because I am 130 pages into Dark Heir, and so I read a scene that kind of like made me start thinking. So in this book, we are definitely dealing with Will trying to like hide his secret that he is in fact the Dark King, and kind of what that means with his relationship with James in particular, who is drawn to him, but also fears the concept of the Dark King, particularly because James was collared by the Dark King in that he had to obey. And we learned at the end of the last book that the Dark King used him to betray the stewards, and that collar is the whole reason why he is known the betrayer, that he apparently did none of those atrocities voluntarily. Will knows that and is kind of like, what do I do with your attraction towards me and my attraction towards you, as we kind of like have this precarious balance, because Will is super drawn to James as much as James is drawn to him. And we get these commentaries with Will that he is like having these like darker thoughts, not so much that he wants to like control James, but just like the same possessive dark thoughts that kind of like slip out. We had this scene where James had like poured all his power out to open one of the closed gates in the hall, completely drains himself. They get themselves into shit. They manage to get out of it, and then Will and James are like in a room at night before they go to bed, and all Will can think of is like, you did this for me, you did so well, just like this very praising feeling, but also like this pride that you did that for me. You drained yourself. You gave everything you had up for me. And Will was recognizing that that's not great and that it's probably going to become a problem. And then James is just getting closer and closer, and Will doesn't know how to stop it. But that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk to you about is what I just read. I think this is in chapter 13, whatever, where we get Will dreaming. So we start this chapter in Will's dream where he is dreaming of his past life where he is a Dark King Saurian. And it's this really peaceful scene where he's laying out in the sun, and then James's past life comes up to him, and we get this like really flirty moment between the two. And there's a note that there's no collar present here, that whatever flirtatious relationship that they had after the collar was present before. And it's getting me thinking of what the relationship is and how did it come to be that way. So are we gonna get something where like we see Will's past self become corrupt and using that power to corrupt those around him and those who loved him, and kind of like using that possessive nature that Will's already getting hints of and just taking that to the extreme in which he creates the collar and puts that on James? Or is there going to be some sort of twist where we see that the Dark King wasn't always dark and that maybe it's something that corrupted him that led to the further corruption? I don't know. I don't know even which one I would want, because part of me wants to see just like a true evil character and kind of having to reckon with that, and what do you do with it, and how do you prevent yourself from stopping that? Or do I want to see like a morally gray character that is villainized because of history? Because there's no right side in this. Both sides have done some truly horrific things, as we saw with the steward who held down our friend the unicorn and held him down and sawed off his horn and kept it for all these years rather than give it back. And then to find out that he was a steed for the Light's greatest champion. Are you kidding me? And that still happened to him. And of course he switched sides. And then we have all them ingesting the same corrupt power to give them their strength. And the torture they're willing to do, the torture they did to James. No side's good in this. So I'm curious to see how we're going to kind of reconcile that. I'm sure there's going to be some third option where we can overcome our past together, whatever. But it's really interesting how C.S. Pacat is dealing with this in the story, and particularly with Will and James's relationship, which is just so precarious in so many ways. Like it's not a healthy relationship yet, if at all, because all the secrets involved. The fact that Will still hasn't told James that he is the Dark King and that he knows the reason why James is so drawn to him, and allowing James to think that attraction is okay and not related to his past, and just allowing himself to like trust Will even though Will is holding like the biggest secret he possibly could. I don't know. There's just a lot going on, and I'm so excited. It's very interesting so far, and I'm still not terribly far in. My plan is to get it done today, if not to get as close as possible, because I want to have this video done by Sunday, like done and edited by Sunday. And it is Friday right now, so I still have a couple of days. So fingers crossed. I'm gonna keep reading though, and I will catch you in my next update. Hopefully sans washer going off in the background. Okay. I need to read you this part because if Will and James don't get together by the end of this series, I will eat my fucking shoe. Let me set the mood for you. So Will has just woken up from another dream where he is meeting the lady for the first time in his past life. And the first comment he makes about her is not her beauty, it's about how much she looks like James. Like she has James's same coloring. If that's not the gayest thing you've ever heard. And then he wakes up with James, of course, shaking him awake. And they're having this whole conversation about how this place is like doing weird things to them. And they start talking about magic and how Will's saying he can't access his powers because he's lying because James still thinks he's part of the light. And Will kind of says, well, maybe I don't have any. And James like, that's a lie because I can feel it. And then we get this scene. Okay, I'm gonna read it to you. You can feel mine, can't you? James' voice in his ears soft as a touch. You know I can. He felt it when James walked into a room. Felt it even when James was depleted. A guttering flame, and Will wanted to curl around him and nurse that flame into blazing fire. What does it feel like? Said James. Like the sun or something brighter. The truth, even as he was breathing shallowly, James had always had his complete helpless attention. It's the same for me. You're powerful. More powerful than anything I felt. I can't look away, James said. I could close my eyes and know you. You do know me, he couldn't say. You were mine in a past we can't remember. Feeling it was dangerous. Come on. He wanted to curl around him and nurse his flame. I would know you even with my eyes closed. What the fuck? I need this to be a romance. I need it to be a romance because if it's not a romance, I'm going to scream because I don't even know. I want them. They're so tender. And like, there's so much gonna go wrong with it because Will is the Dark King and James doesn't know it. I'm loving this book. I am 223 pages in. So I think I'm at the halfway point, maybe a little less than halfway, but I am loving this and I'm going to continue reading this. So I will catch you next time I have an update or next time Will and James do something that make me want to claw my eyes out. I just wanted to update you really quick. So this is maybe like 5-10 minutes after I last updated you, but I just had a theory. So I've been thinking, I've been doing a thing, and I've been trying to think like how Simon's father Sinclair fits into all of this because he's such a powerful force, right? And he's behind a lot of the action and can use what is apparently the Dark King's mark to look into other people's eyes, right? Which is a weird power because you think only the Dark King would be able to have that. So my theory is that the Dark King isn't actually the evil one in this case because the Dark King in the past was a servant to the Sun King, who was the king for both James and Will and was the husband to the lady, or what would be Catherine and Elizabeth. So what if, and I'm putting this out there right now, he's actually the evil one and the Dark King is just being blamed because when Will was in the past, he keeps talking about how he has a bad reputation, that he was the left hand for the king who did all like the dirty stuff, and it gave him this reputation of being evil and how everyone's like warned to stay away from him and the lady would stay away from him and all that jazz, right? So what if the Sun King is really the one that's evil and that the Dark King and the lady were working together to defeat the Sun King, and in doing so that they were trying to like fight against something and hide the truth of what the Sun King was doing, and that is why they lay the blame on the Dark King. Maybe I might be wrong, but I'm gonna throw it out there in case I'm right, so this will be proof. If I'm right, I called it. Damn it, I called it. I'm so curious how this is all gonna play because there's just so many weird things about the past and the interactions that Will's having with kind of reincarnation of people from his past. So we have James, we have Catherine / Elizabeth, and we have Sinclair, who is seemingly just super interested in all this, but why? What is his power? I'm calling it, he's the Sun King. That the Dark King wasn't really the evil one. He's just the one who took the blame to hide away the secret of whatever him and the lady were actually fighting. Okay, I'm putting it out there. We'll see if I'm right. I could be very wrong. In fact, I might be very wrong. But that's the theory I'm going with right now as I continue this book. I am now about halfway through. I'm gonna keep reading. And I'll get back to you when I have another update. Oh god, this is gonna go so bad. Oh, this is another Chekhov's gun. It's going to happen. Someone I believe could save me. Oh no. Oh, is gonna end so badly. Hold on. She gave birth to Will. And then what? Hold on. We need to have this conversation. All right. Hello. We need to have this conversation. So we're at the place where Will's mom gave birth to him and his two sisters, which we're now getting confirmed that it is Will was birthed and not spawned into the being as he is. So like Will and Catherine are roughly the same age. I think that was established. She was maybe a little bit younger. We'll say maybe like a year or two younger than him. So what the fuck did she do with him while she drops and gives birth? So like, okay, we can theoretically say that when she gave birth to Catherine, she left Will, who was too young to realize anything, with someone, and she came and gave birth to Catherine real quick, you know. Let's say we accept that. He's too young to realize she's pregnant, and he's 1 year old, so he won't remember her disappearing to give birth. But Elizabeth is a lot younger. Like at least 7 to 10 years younger. So Will would have been old enough to, one, realize his mom was gone for a bit of time, and two, realize that his mom was pregnant. So why doesn't he? Why doesn't he remember her disappearing like this? Is Will not actually birthed? Is there another third brother there? Is there a third brother? Who is this brother? Is it Cyprian, who Will's saying he feels protective of? Is that it? There's so many things going on in this book. There's so many things going on in this book that I haven't even like covered the majority of it because there's so much going on and I don't know what to do with all the details. But I have so many theories, so many. I need to calm down and go back to reading this book. I'll catch you in another update. Hopefully I have something that makes a little more sense because I don't know where this book is going, and that's amazing. It is about 3 o'clock and I am less than 100 pages before I'm done with this book. And I thought I would just give you a quick update and like what's going on, kind of my thoughts, what's happening in this book. So I believe last time I talked to you, I was mainly focusing on my theory about how the Dark King is maybe not like the fully villain here and it's the Sun King. I'm still holding out hope for a little bit of that because we did learn that the Dark King was betrayed by the Sun King and James and the lady, who the king had told him that the Dark King was conspiring against him. It seems like something's off about that situation, and he was dropped into this oubliette, or like a pit that was like a prison, and it was dark, and that was the whole thing. And he's rescued by some other person who was kind of infatuated with him. He kind of makes this remark like, it's almost like you wanted to be sent in here. And Will had said, or past Will had said, well, wouldn't you study the place you were going to be imprisoned by your enemies? So something's going on. So I know the Dark King is a mischievous little fuck and possibly power hungry, but I'm also skeptical that he is the main villain that we have to fear here. I do still think that the Sun King, and by extension Sinclair, plays a bigger role than we think. And I'm curious because we keep getting this message that the Dark King's not the worst thing we have to fear, or rather the Dark King rising is not the worst thing to fear. Something in this palace and in this place is worse than that there's something beneath the surface that if it comes to light and if it comes out of its hole, that it's the end of the world, worse than the Dark King. So I'm wondering what that is. And since we only have like 100 pages left, I'm going to find out what that is, because what's happening now is all our players are starting to come together. We do have at least one person or two people who know that Will is in fact the Dark King, and that is Elizabeth and Visander, so the person who was reborn into Catherine's body. They know that Will's the Dark King because they went to the midwife who had birthed Will and then Elizabeth and Catherine, and she essentially broke the news that, Will is the Dark King. We have them on a ship that's on their way to Italy, which is where Will and them are. And they're going to be there in like 2 or so days. And Will now knows that Visander's on that ship, and that Visander recognizes him because Will can like jump into people's bodies and like spy on them, and he did that, and the guy stabbed him with a sword, died painfully. It was all sorts of fun. But we have Violet, who also is aware of something going on. So while she was being kidnapped by the animal tamer lady and her brother, she was reading a diary that was from Marcus as he was held captive in kind of like his last few days. And the lady who's been training Violet all this time to fight and kill her brother is essentially saying, well, we're trying to protect the world from something bigger than the Dark King. Whatever is in that pit, only a true lion can defeat it. And so she's hoping that Violet's going to be the true lion because she is the descendant of her mother who Lady Tamer knew. Don't know what's going on with there. We'll see with that. But at the end of that whole encounter, she had told Violet something that made Violet go cold, and she had to get to her friends, which was annoying. So, but in the last scene I just read, Will and Syrian and James are like, we don't know what the fuck we're gonna do and how to stop a whole army of men. And then here comes a familiar voice saying, well, I got a plan, or like, we're gonna stop them like we usually do, or some bullshit like that, which I'm guessing is Violet, who has been absent for a while and knows where her friends are. So what I think is going to happen for the end of this novel is that we are going to have a big old reunion, and everyone's going to find out that Will is in fact the Dark King because of Elizabeth and Visander. And we're going to have to play that out. Maybe. I think this could end in one or two ways. One, that we go through this battle, we're trying to stop Sinclair's men from reviving the Dark Army that has been encapsulated in this pit for many, many, many years. And that we found out are not going to be like shadow people, but like reincarnated people from the old era. So they're not gonna be like James, who was reborn into the world, but like Visander, they would just pop into a dead body and bam, they're here and remember everything about themselves. I think we're gonna be dealing majorly with that, but then we could end with Elizabeth revealing who Will is and kind of having the aftermath of that, and 100% Visander trying to kill Will and potentially all his friends turning against him, which will suck and be so angsty because like that's what Will's been so afraid of this entire time. Like he's almost told everyone, but each time he like even brings up the subject, everyone always talks about killing the Dark King. And Will, who's already been almost killed by his mother for his own being, having reborn as his figure, he's so afraid, as one would be. And so it's gonna be so angsty. This ending is gonna be so fucking angsty. And I'm not sure I'm ready for it, but I'm also so ready for it. The other way it's gonna end is that we're gonna get this confrontation a lot earlier and then still have to deal with all the drama of what's underneath this palace and what's in this pit that is everyone's so afraid of. But I'm holding out hope. Okay, I'm holding out hope that the Dark King isn't as dark as we think, and that he was actually dark to protect everyone. That he was the villain that stepped in so everyone can blame him, as he really was the hero all along. I just don't want my baby Will to suffer, and I want him and James to get together and smooch and everything be okay, because they had such tender moments and I need them to kiss. I need them to kiss. Okay, so bad. We'll see if that happens. I doubt it will happen in this book. If it happens at all, it's gonna happen in book 3, which is so frustrating because I'm so close. I'm so close. I don't want it to be over because then I have to wait. And this one already took forever to come out. I'm gonna go back to reading. I'll catch you in that next update. Oh, almost. We're never gonna get that kiss. We're never gonna get this kiss. Fuck. Fucking New Kettering is someone dastardly. Yep, okay, so we're going with plan B. We're having this confrontation now. No, Violet, don't give it to him. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Ha! 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 Ew, don't call him Jamie. No! 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 I knew it! I knew this stupid thing was gonna... I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. Alright, well, we got 20 pages. How's this gonna go? Oh, this is going so badly. This is going so badly. Yeah, wonder why Will's the only one. Fools, all of you fools. So caught up in the past you can't view the future. Oh my god, am I at the end of the book? No, please let me have another chapter. I have to have another chapter. I have to have another chapter. I love you, James. I don't trust this, but I love you. Oh my god. Oh my god. This sucks. No, I wanted a kiss, but not like this. Not like this. Fuck. Damn it. See us, Pacat. You're the fucking worst. I hope you know that. I hope you know you done dirty for that. God. Everything went wrong. I knew everything was going wrong, but it went wrong. I need the third book. I need it like yesterday. Okay, where do I even begin? Where do I even begin to tell you what the fuck just happened in that last small section? Oh my god, where do I even begin? Where the fuck did we leave off? Violet showed up again. That's what happened. So Violet shows up as we knew she was, and they make this whole plan. Will is gonna go down and stop Sinclair's men while Violet, Cyprian, and James evacuate the people in the surrounding towns. And their goal is to stop Sinclair before he can get and raise the army. And then if he does somehow raise the army, they want all the people out of the way so we don't get more, people being reincarnated into dead bodies. That's the plan. Of course, Will being Will decides he needs to be his self-sacrificing self and, go off on his own. And we find out that Ketamir, whatever that fucking little scholar dweeb was, he turns out he is in fact from the past. He is one of the returners that he was burning in a pyre at 7 years old. It's fine, he's got trauma. And his whole thing is he's gonna go sneak into the palace and get the Dark King's scepter, which is what Violet had learned from the animal tamer lady. That what's hidden inside this prison is his scepter or his staff that can control the army of death. That's what's in here, and that's what Sinclair's after. And so the scholar, so what Ket is, he wants to go revive his old little lady lover, who he apparently made a promise with that they would be reborn together, and he was gonna sneak into the palace. And Will being Will, who knows everything, says, I'm gonna go with you so I can get this stupid thing and we could stop it before it becomes a thing, and he's gonna destroy it. That's Will's whole plan. Well, as he is getting ready to go, Violet and Cyprian and Grace, the steward attendant, I don't know if I mentioned her, she's really hasn't been that important. Those three decide, where can I come with you? Because we're your friends and we're not gonna let you go alone. And Will's like, fuck me. I'm just trying to self-sacrifice, but I can't do that with your audience because you will stop me. But fine, I'll work around it. Let's go. And so they all go back to the palace and they go to the pit. And just as Will's about to go into the pit and he's telling them, okay, watch the door, I'm gonna go do the thing, who shows up? But of course, our buddy Visander and Elizabeth. And Visander chooses this moment to tell them all Will's a Dark King, which of course leads to a whole bunch of issues. And before they could even really get into this, process that information fully, we have Visander trying to kill Will, but then they realize that, hey, Ket's gone. And Will immediately knows what that fucker's done. Because what also happens, we get a big old earthquake, and then we got bodies starting to crawl out of this hole and fucking start attacking. So it's turned out that Ket was impatient and didn't want to wait for Will and, to everyone to have this big dramatic moment of revealing a secret. And he had snuck back down into that prison and grabbed the staff and, raised the army himself. So now, not only do we have Will being trapped by, or stopped by his friends and his age-old enemy, who once freed him and now is viciously after his death, stopping him as we have a whole army coming to destroy everything. Literally everything. And Will's like, fuck. And as they're kind of starting to be swarmed, he dips into the whole prison and is going to get the staff to stop everything from happening. And then we jump to James, who's at the gate and is holding it open, and he's like thinking all these great thoughts about like how Will is the only one who saw him as a protector, and that Will gave him the chance to be something more than what he was always told he'd had to be. And then the wave of the undead army come and attack, and he holds out to the last possible second and closes the gate. Still thousands of people die and like get infected with the White Death because they were too afraid to go through the gate when it first fucking opened. But that's not the worst thing. No, of course not. Because why would that be the worst thing that happens? No, we have motherfucking Sloan, the overseer for this fucking dig, and he's being controlled by Sinclair because of course Sloan has a brand, and so Sinclair holds him. And James, who is wiped of all energy, as we've seen time and time again every time he opens these gates, has the collar on him. I don't remember if I mentioned about it, but he has the collar on him. Of course he does, because he's been hiding it this whole time. He doesn't know what to do with it. And we had this whole scene earlier where he was trying to get Will to put it on him because he was so afraid that if anyone else puts it on him, that he'd rather it be Will, and blah 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 blah. Didn't happen. Still has a stupid collar. Well, Sinclair realizes that he has this collar and decides, I'm going to put it on James. And so we have this whole tense moment where James is trying to crawl away with the last bit of his energy, and Sinclair still puts it on him. But thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, we realize that it doesn't really matter, that the rumor was a lie, that if you put this collar on James, you still can't control him. He will only ever be controlled by one person, the Dark King. Get that revelation, he kills Sloan, and then we jump back to Will, who is going through this tunnel of bodies trying to find this stupid scepter, staff, whatever. Finds it in Ket's dead hands, who like sacrificed himself to raise his army, and Will's like, man, that was stupid. We don't even know where your little lady love was. She's probably dead because Violet's up there killing a whole bunch of people. Shit's fucked. And it turns out that the stupid staff thing is not a staff at all. It's a brand. The brand with the S mark that we saw back in book 1 with Simon using. So Will's like, don't know what to do with this. And then we have another little intermission where we jump back to Violet and Lysander and Cyprian and Elizabeth, and she's all like, what the fuck do you mean Will's a Dark King? And he's like, he's a Dark King. And they're being like attacked by a whole bunch of fucking shadow zombie things. And fucking Lysander, oh my god. So Lysander just had to come and fuck everything up. So Lysander's like, you need me to help fight all this. You're protecting Elizabeth. I'm gonna protect Elizabeth. We could work together in this. Give me the sword. The sword that can kill the Dark King that Will entrusted to Violet, so because he trusted her to do what's right, and she gives it to him. Of course she does. She gives it to him, and they start killing things back to back to back, and they kind of hit like a lull where Elizabeth like erects this ball of light to shield them, and they have enough time to have a conversation now of what the fuck are we gonna do. Cyprian immediately jumps on board. Will's the Dark King. We gotta kill him. He can't be saved. He's not really our friend. He's been lying to us. And Violet's a little more hesitant. Homegirl Violet's like, nah, that's Will, man. He's been helping us this entire time. What do you mean? We can't just immediately say he's a Dark King and we're gonna kill him. But Cyprian's like, nah, we have to kill him. But then they come to the problem is no one can follow Will into the pit because there's a whole bunch of like dark miasma bullshit. You can't follow him unless you have a dark creature in you. And so Cyprian decides, okay, I'm gonna drink from the cup. The one thing I said I was never gonna do, I'm gonna go do it so I can go kill Will. And so he drinks from the fucking cup and he jumps down the hole. And we jump back to Will, who's grabbed this brand, and now Cyprian's there, and they have a kind of conflict where Will is just trying to say, I'm not trying to be the Dark King, I'm just trying to stop this army, and Cyprian's not listening. They start fighting, and Will's just like, we don't have time for this. We need to stop the army. This is the only thing that's going to stop the army. And Cyprian's like, no, you're just trying to get control, and they're fight, and then Will tries to control the shadow in Cyprian so he can like do just the minute he needs to stop this army. But Cyprian fights against his shadow, so he has full control, and he's able to get the brand from Will, and he breaks it. And Will's pissed. He's like, that's the only thing we had to stop this fucking army. What are we gonna do? You're being so stupid. Like, I'm not him. I'm Will. I'm not him. Cyprian's not listening. He handcuffs Will. He drags him back up top. And so now we have this whole confrontation where everyone's seeing Will saying, you're not the Dark King. What do we do with him? And Lysander's like, we need to kill him. And Violet's like, we can't kill him. He's our friend. And then unbeknownst to them, because who else is on the ship with Lysander and Elizabeth? But Tom. But they appear, and then so Violet's like, Tom. And she's like, shit. And Tom's like, what are you doing here? And then these people are dangerous. And everyone's arguing with each other. Because while everyone's arguing about whose side's good, whose side's bad, and no one knows what's going on, and we're right, and you're wrong, and you're evil, and we're good, blah, 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 blah. Will's the only one saying, we don't have time for this. We all need to work together. together to stop this army, because if we don't, it's gonna be a mess and no one's listening. And Violet had this really good line that is kind of like a retrospective look at the moment, where she said later Violet would remember that Will was the only person talking about how to stop the army while everyone else is caught up in old feuds. And that's just the perfect kind of summary of what's going on with these characters, that everyone's so tied into these old feuds of these old lives that aren't real anymore. It's clouded their judgment, and Will's the only one that's kind of like, we need to not. We need to move beyond who we could be. It all goes back to that wonderful line in the first book that Will has, that I could care less what you do in the past or what you did now. I care about what you could do in the future. I'm more concerned about that. But no one else is thinking that way. Everyone else is still wrapped up in these old feuds, and their detriment, because what happens is that while they're arguing, Will does the only thing he can to get people to listen, and he takes control over the brand and kind of like speaking through everyone that has it. And he's saying, we need to stop this army and stop fucking fighting. But that's the moment where Violet is just like realizing, you are the Dark King, and just lets that shock take over her. And Visander then tries to kill Will, and Violet doesn't do anything to stop him. And then just as we think Will is going to be killed, James comes in and saves Will. He like throws Visander against the wall, throws Hyperion when he tries to move, and Will is shocked and is so happy, and he's like, tell me you don't hate me, tell me you know who I am. And James like, I know who you are, I don't hate you. And James is like, what do you want? Like, tell me what to do next. And he's like, let's get out of here. And so they get out, and we have this whole moment where they're flying through the air, and Will is just so relieved to see someone at his side, because he was so afraid all this time that if it ever came out, no one would be by his side. It was just going to be his mother all over again trying to kill him. And Catherine, who wouldn't listen to him, was so afraid that they couldn't see beyond the past of who he was centuries ago that he didn't even remember. And he's just so relieved, and he's like, tell me you don't hate me, tell me you don't hate me. And James like, I don't hate you, I know who you are, I don't hate you. And then Will kisses him, because that was what they had promised each other. After all this was over, tell me again and I'll kiss you. And so they kiss, and Will's getting a little frisky and like running his hands up, and it opens his shirt, and he sees the collar, and it's just wrecked. Like, I was wrecked, because he can't trust any of it. And James calls him my king, and just Will's so fucking distraught, because none of this is real. All his fears have come true at this point. There's nothing to stop it. He's the Dark King. And then James calls him by his past name. He calls him Saurian, not Will. And James says, I remember everything, Saurian. I'm just like, fuck. I'm gonna come back later and tell you my final thoughts, but this was a great read. This was a fucking roller coaster, but it was a great read, and I need so much time to process this. My phone's gonna die. I'll be back with a closing update, but oh my god. Okay, we're back to present Emily, and I've had a minute to think about this book, and I gotta say, Dark Heir still fucked me up so bad. The ending. Oh my god, I'm not over it. C.S. Pacat, I have words for you, because you've ruined my entire day and my entire month and my entire year, because I need the third book. I need it now, because oh my god. How can you leave us like that? How can you leave us on that cliffhanger where we have Will being completely broken and just all his fears coming true? And I'm still not over it, as you can clearly tell. I'm not okay. I'm not okay in the slightest. And this was so good. I loved every second of it. Even the parts I didn't like and the chapters I was really annoyed with, I still enjoyed every second of, because this world is so extensive, and the way we're learning about it is so fun and interesting, because not only do we get Will's dreams of his past life, but we have so many different characters kind of layering on their experience and their kind of interpretation of that past and why they maybe want to see it again. We have so many different motivations going on in this book, and for why each character is doing what they want to do. Some are the stereotypical, we want power. Others are like, we want peace and we want to fight for the good. But then we have people like Devon, who was the embodiment of pure and light, but was fucked over so bad that he has decided he wants to go back to his world where he had power and he wasn't brutalized by humans and the light. We have characters like Visander, who is hell-bent on revenge and doesn't care about anything other than his own revenge and his feelings and his interpretation of who these characters are. We have James, who is fighting against his quote-unquote destiny while also being pushed closer and closer to it by everyone he meets. Every character is so complex, and their motives are so interesting to read and to see how they come together, particularly looking at this through Will's perspective, who is someone whose destiny is to be the villain. And yet is the only one to think of the future and now outside of the timeline says a lot. If you couldn't tell, I gave this book 5 stars and it earned every one of those stars. I had such a great time reading this book, and I was a little afraid picking this book up that I wasn't gonna love it as much as the first book, which was a total lie. I liked it a little bit more because of all the work Dark Rise did into getting us prepared for this book. So it didn't feel as slow as Dark Rise did. It definitely felt like we were able to just jump straight in and learn more about the world that we've already established. But I adore these books. They are so good, and they're so, like, look at these books. These are such pretty books. Like, C.S. Pacat, I need you to re-release Captive Prince so we can have pretty editions like these. I'm a mess still, and I need the 3rd book. If anyone knows C.S. Pacat and wants to, like, give her my channel, give her my email, my number, and, like, if she wants to slide me an arc of book 3, I will drop everything to review that book right then and there, okay? Just saying. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. I had a lot of fun filming it, and it was just a time. I hope you enjoyed my very silly, very silly and overdramatic reactions, particularly to Dark Heir, because I sure as hell enjoyed watching them as I was editing. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a thumbs up and a comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or what is your most anticipated release for this upcoming year. If you like this sort of content and want to see more like this, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel out and lets me know that you want to see more reading vlogs and more bookish content from me. I would also like to thank Luisa again for sponsoring this video. Be sure that you guys go ahead and click that link down in the description. I'll post the code on screen as well to get yourself some great quality jewelry for a great price. And if you use my discount code, you get an extra 35% off of your order right in time for the holiday season. That's all I'm saying. Click that link. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!